Balance. It's an important word when you're in business for yourself or you're running an organization. Balance. What do we take home with us? What don't we take home with us? What do we say no to? What do we say yes to? And it can get overwhelming. What if we said yes to every opportunity and excelled at every opportunity? I know it flies in the face of everything we've been taught, but you're about to meet someone who is succeeding at that mindset of yes. Billy Keels is next.
This is A Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things. Now, podcasting from Spire to leaders in local communities like yours, here is Brian Leflock.
Folks, I tell you what, when you're listening to this show, you know one thing. Quite often, someone is trapped in something. They're in the corporate world, or they're in a dead-end job, or they're not sure what to do next. And so they become this entrepreneur, or they figure out a way to overcome the hurdles and they achieve their dreams. But it's usually a one or the other kind of an approach. I want you to meet somebody today that kind of says, no, it's not one or, it's one and. Let's do more. Let's figure out a way to do this and that. I'm not going to give away the story, but it's really a different take on overcoming hurdles. Bring the baggage with you. Here is Billy Keels, who is a happy corporate employee with a really well-known and well-off corporate business, but he has also started his own entrepreneurial gig that's not a side hustle. It's the real deal. And Billy's going to tell you about success on a few different fronts. So Billy, welcome to Dash of Grit.
Hey, Brian, I'm really, really looking forward to another great conversation with you. We've had a couple of already wonderful conversations and looking to share my story and add some value to the Dash of Grit family.
Yeah, you're about to. Every time we've talked before, my eyebrows kind of go up. What, really? You're doing that too? And really, you're doing that too? So you're going to tell us about that, Billy. Billy, if you would share with us what success looks like for you, what's going really well? What are you proud of? Pat yourself on the back and brag a little bit, and then we're going to dig in where it gets hard. But first, tell me the good things.
Yeah, so I consider myself someone who's extremely fortunate. Originally from Columbus, Ohio, so it's great to have not only grown up in Ohio, grow up in different states in the U.S. So I got a chance to see and do a lot of things at a young age. I went to college at Miami of Ohio. After that, I had an amazing job where I was working and traveling throughout some 58 different countries, always in like 5-star kind of treatment. So that was amazing. And I'd never seen anything like that before. So it was like just having exposure to that really opened up my eyes, my world. In 95, I had a chance to live overseas. And then actually since 2001, I've been living in Europe. So I actually live in Barcelona, Spain. But before that, I was living in Paris, France. I was down in a town in the south. And then I also lived on an island in Italy called Sardinia. And so those things really helped to open up my eyes. And you mentioned it before, like today, aside from being a husband and a father, which are probably my favorite roles, I am working in my role during the day where I am an account executive for a very large enterprise software company, application software company. And I have also been, over the last 7 years, building my own business. And so kind of the success, if you look at it in sales, like I've had successes well over $20 million worth of sales in my corporate and really, really feel very fortunate to have had our very first $1 million investor, which means a lot to me and our small company, because that's a lot of trust and dreams and hopes that people are now entrusting in us. So those are a lot of the things that are really positive. And most importantly, and I think a lot of us have recognized this, I just feel very blessed to be healthy as well every single day, waking up and continue to be healthy and doing the things that I really want to do, not that I have to do them.
Absolutely. And so you shared with me how all those opportunities, you kind of just said yes to them and you went where the wind kind of took you and the opportunity took you and you made the most of those situations. And now we talk about the fact that you are an accomplished and successful account executive, but you're also building this very successful business. Tell us a little bit about the hurdles, because most people give up one or the other. Most people can't do it all, especially being a family man as well. So talk to me about the hurdles of getting that kind of a thing started. Where did you realize you had to make a change? What didn't you want to leave behind? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, a couple of things that I continue to deal with these things, and I continue to talk about them and receive input and feedback from people. But when you're in a highly demanding corporate role, and you're expected to be on all the time, well, then you're expected to be all on all the time. Fortunately, working in an account executive role, it's really about what are the results. So whether you work 5 hours or 500 hours, it's what results are you really, are you bringing to the organization? What value are you providing to your customers, to your clients? And so there's a lot that was a struggle for me, because on one hand, I was just initially, when I got into investing, I was just looking for a way to get out of the paper assets, or like the stock market, mutual funds and things like that, because I felt like I didn't have any control. I lost a lot of value in 2000 and a lot of value in my portfolio in 2008. And so I got into real estate and started as real estate. But the thing is, between these two roles, like I was doing this role on the side, and I felt really ashamed, or like I couldn't talk about it during my day job, because like it was be like kind of cheating on the company that I was working for. And so I was really working crazy hours, and there's a lot of sacrifice that goes there as well. And when you're starting up something, I was actually starting two roles at the same time, because in the company I was working in, I was getting ready to start a new role. And so there were a lot of moments that were really difficult, because I couldn't really talk about, or I didn't feel comfortable. It's not that I didn't feel comfortable talking about what I was doing. And at the same time, it was like learning new things, being a young father. And it was just, there were a lot of moments where I had to make sacrifices and decide what I wanted to do.
It feels to me like at that time you were in a or mindset. So am I going to be a great family man, or am I going to be a corporate employee, or am I going to start this side hustle? And that was causing a lot of turmoil inside you, correct?
A lot of internal turmoil, because I just didn't feel comfortable yet that, you know what, it is okay to actually do this and this and this. And then the sacrifice, usually for someone who likes to sleep a lot, would probably be the hours that they sleep. Fortunately for me, I don't sleep a lot, but I do sleep the hours that my body needs. Like I'm not one of these people that says, I got to keep going until it's over with. No, when I'm tired, I go to sleep, but I just genuinely don't sleep. I haven't woken up with an alarm clock in a long time. So
how did that switch for you? So you were in an or mindset, and it was causing you a lot of angst. How did that shift?
I think part of it was just the fact, Brian, that it came with the number of years. And when I started realizing, because my whole mindset was, if I'm in my corporate role and I'm not performing, then the excuse will be, well, it's because you're distracted and you're doing other things. But the reality was, when I started looking at the results that I was providing, I was consistently overachieving against the goals or the targets that were set for me. So when I started realizing, like, well, Billy, you know what? You're overachieving against those targets. You're in line with those targets, and you have time to do things outside of the office. Like what I don't do, Brian, like I don't watch a lot of Netflix, or I don't watch a lot of TV, or I don't play video games. Like, I just choose to, that extra time, either I'm feeding my mind, meditating in the morning, getting exercise, or in the evening, I am typically, reading something online, or I'm working on building my business, or I'm working on bringing on new people. And that's how I use my time. I just prefer to use it that way. And sometimes it's kind of looked at, well, look, you don't really do anything to relax or to settle down. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I don't really want to do those things. I'd prefer to use my energy for these things, because my thought is now that time and energy that I'm putting in, it's going to allow me in a shorter time to say, hey, look, you know what? Now I want to literally manage my own time the way that I want to do it 100% of the time. And in order to do that, I believe, or what the way that I've chosen to do it is making sacrifices now in certain areas. So,
And so how did you figure out what was happening in your world that said, look, I can't keep having this torn situation where I can't say what I'm talking about at night. I can't talk about what I'm talking about in the day. My wife doesn't know where I'm working at any different time. You were torn. How did you figure out that it was okay to just do it all?
Yeah. So, and actually my wife does always know where I am all the time. It was more my fear. It was my mindset. Like that or mindset was, I was a fear of my corporate role. And so what made me realize that it was okay was that I was achieving the results in my day job. And when I knew that was okay, then I was okay to talk about it and share this with people that were in my day job. Of course, when we look at the family, so my wife, my kids, they've known that, like they've seen me working really, really crazy hours. And, if anyone, they're the ones that I owe the most gratitude to, because they have, when my kids usually come home, and when they're coming home, my goal is to be able to spend an hour with them and then I'm back doing things, either working in the day job because it's really demanding and the hours here are really, really long, or it's usually late at night where I'm on the phone with people back in the States, because my business, although I live in Europe, I believe you can live anywhere you want. And my investing business is all based on US based assets. So I'm 6 hours behind at a minimum, anything and everything that I do. But family's always been aware. It was more of my own kind of fixed mindset initially on fear of from the corporate job. But once I've realized that that fixed mindset doesn't really work, and I'm much more of a kind of a growth, or not kind of a much more of a growth mindset, and getting into new things and being able to use my time, which is my most valuable asset, which it's one of the things I started realizing. I used to think it was money, but it's not. It's actually how I'm using my time is how I get the biggest return and the biggest fulfillment.
All right.
So I know it's probably a long-winded answer, but hopefully that
it does help a lot. I beg to ask. So I'm an account executive too, and I've got goals, and I hit my goals. But every once in a while, I don't. Don't tell anybody, right? So every once in a while, things don't go right, or the project didn't go as, and I've got to jump, and I've got fires to put out. Yep. And the same with family. Sometimes there's fires to put out, so you've got all this going on. Give me an example of a time when you just couldn't keep it all straight, and it was really, you're starting to wonder whether this lifestyle was something that you could keep up.
Yeah, and hopefully a lot of, especially those of us that are in the sales profession, right? This will relate. Like, there have been moments, and not just one, like, it's happened frequently. And this is one of the things, because I'm much more aware of it now, I work to minimize this as much as possible. But, it's that time, it's in the late day, there is a phone call that should have ended at, 6 o'clock or whatever the end of your workday is. And you had an event that you're supposed to go to with your family, take the kid to a soccer match. And either you keep asking everybody, wait, hang on. And then you just they're looking at you in the face going, really, again, we're going to have to wait once again in order to leave, or the family has actually had to leave, or everybody's waiting for me as I'm on the phone, walking to the car, and I get in the car. Hey, everybody's got to be quiet while I continue on my phone call. Like, those are the kinds of things that I realized that it's either I should have stayed at home, or and to finish the call and let everybody else go, because then they're not waiting, or just stop that call and gotten into the car with family to be able to do that. But it's about being able to decide on what you're supposed to do and not be caught in limbo between the two.
And how does that make you feel? Because everything to you, with the and mentality, everything is your number one. So when you're trapped between the two, how does that make you feel just as a person?
Yeah, so this is the part where you get the most angst, right? And then it goes back. Like, I read this. I have a really good friend named BJ. He sent me this article that I read, and it was Bob Proctor. And he was talking about the power of decisions. Like, inherently, we all know that once you make a decision, right, it gives you this amazing power to actually act on what you're supposed to do. Like, you decide on what you're supposed to do, and then you just act on it. Like, it's just
steam ahead.
That's that whole clarity thing. That's what it allows you to do, right?
Yep.
But when you don't have clarity of the decision making process, then you're trapped. And so one of the things that I work on every single day is, when I block out my time in advance and I know that I'm going to be doing this, everything else is shut off, right? Like, one of the things, even before you and I started talking today, like, I know that here, for the time that we're here, nothing else is going to happen. Nothing. I know that as soon as we finish this call, that there are a couple of other things that, yes, they're going to happen. And that's the way that I continue to work on improving this, that I know now that my calendar is what really manages my life. And sometimes and I'm not saying that it happens sometimes they're just emergencies that happen, but it shouldn't be the norm. It should be the exception. It shouldn't be that your family's looking at you going, really, again? It should be like, okay, well, this is happening. Like, maybe it is a really big, important deal, but hey, listen, go ahead and go. And I'm going to stay here, finish this. And then when I get to you, then I'm with you, like, 100%. And just that whole thing of being present. But I believe that it comes back to being really clear, making decisions, and then just sticking with that.
Yeah, I fully believe in that presence idea. I argue with folks that say they're good at multitasking. And I think you're not saying I'm a multitasker. You're saying, when I'm working on one thing, I'm working on it with all my heart and all my focus. And then I turn that off and I go to something else. But Billy, I'm going to push back, because there are people listening right now that say you can't do everything well. You've got to pick one thing. You've got to give it all you've got, and you've got to do that extremely well. And they're going to say, I want to do this other thing too. I just don't have time. My business is going to suffer. Is any part of your life suffering because you choose the and mentality? And if so, what do you do about it to make sure that it comes up and raises the level of the ship there?
So if there are things that are suffering, they're not priority items that I would say, right? Mm-hmm. Or they're things that they're not apparent enough to me right now that I'm realizing that they're suffering, mm-hmm. right? And because when I look at the things that are the most important to me, I look at my family and making sure that I'm spending the time that I dedicate to the family, that I'm not doing two things at one time, right? I'm not saying that we spend 24 hours a day together, because I don't think that's realistic either.
Right.
But it's the time that we say that we're together, that we're actually together. And this is even something that I continue to work on improving. I also think about, what is allowing us to sustain the lifestyle that we have right now. A lot of that comes from the role that I'm working during the day. So I want to make sure that I'm continuing to achieve the results or go beyond the results that are asked of me, right? And I get that check every quarter. Like, okay, did you do what you're supposed to? Did you not? And contextually, the things that are in my control, I want to control. There are things that happen that are out of my control. Like if you're working in a certain sector that's been decimated by the pandemic, well, I can't really change that. But what I can do are the day-to-day activities that I'm supposed to be doing. And also on my own business that is now growing and prospering, I know that I need to be able to spend more time mm-hmm. on that, working on my business so that we can better serve our investors. And there probably are balls that are dropping beyond those, but because I know where my main priorities are, like that's where I'm focusing on it. So I'm not saying that balls aren't dropping, but the ones that are most important to me today, I feel like I'm doing that properly, and I haven't received feedback from either of those main three pillars that are saying you're doing this terribly.
That's really fascinating, because those folks that are out there saying, yeah, Brian, thanks for asking that question. They can't, you can't do all these things. You're not doing all these things. There are things that you're just not going to try to do, and they're going to be okay, or you're going to hire someone to do it, or it's going to get done somewhere along the line. So I'm a trained professional, Billy, but I'm going to ask a question I don't know the answer to. I'm just really interested. Usually you only ask questions you know the answers to. I'm interested in what you're going to say here. Is there room, Billy? So there's three. There's family, there's corporate employee, happy corporate employee, and there's entrepreneur. Is there room for a fourth? So is it as simple as just shifting your priorities and adding more things to your plate, or have you reached a limit? Yeah, you don't even know the answer.
No, instinctively, I want to tell you that there could be.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just a matter of what is that? What would that fourth thing be, or would that fourth thing be a part of either my family, my day role, or my own business? Well, that's what I don't know, and maybe part of the reason that it's difficult for me to answer is because it's not on my priorities right now. I think part of what you start to see is, do I need to adapt to something? Do I need to lose something because something is growing, something is not? That could happen, and I guess that I give myself that flexibility in the event that something would change. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I never thought that I was going to be living in Europe for 20 years. I went to Europe on a 1-year sabbatical back in 2001. 20 years later, I've been in 3 countries, got married, we've had 2 children. I've learned 4 languages, like 4 more languages. And so it's difficult for me to really say that it can only be 3. I know right now that as of today's date, there are these 3 that are my main priorities. And this is where I focus my time and my energy on. In 6 months, in 8 months, could there be another one? Possibly. Are one of the 3 that are there now not here? That's the part that's difficult for me to really answer.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You do have your priorities, and you're almost blind to everything else. These are the things that I'm working on, and I don't worry about the other things. So we've talked about, you had the opportunity to go and you went. You had the opportunity to work and you do. You had the opportunity to start, and you've done that. what's the proactive steps? What's next for you and your family and your company and your employee status? What are the hurdles that you're going to have to overcome in the future as you move towards higher levels of success?
Yeah. So, and I'm going to focus this one specifically. Well, there's two things. Number one, on family, it's about being able to get more quality time with my boys specifically, and my wife, quality time. And because one thing that's gone through my mind as our boys get older, I realize that they have less time that they're going to be with us, right? Because eventually our kids are going to do just like me and my brother and my sister did, and you did. Like we leave home.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm becoming much more aware of that. So I'm focusing on like, how do I get even more of that quality time with them is the first thing. The other thing is, in my own business, it is how do I now make sure that the processes are in place so that we're able to properly scale, so that Billy doesn't have to be in I've started to remove myself from those processes that are not really revenue generating as much, but there are still times when I'm still involved in those. And so one of the things that is about how do I select the right talent to come on board, and how do I make sure that our processes are the right processes that can ultimately best serve our investors, because that's the thing that's really important to me. I think that's one of the things that really differentiates one, at least where I am, one syndicator from the next, is how easy do you make it for your investors or for your clients.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's interesting to me that you talk about scaling, and yet the very number one thing you say that you need to scale is your ability to be a father. They do grow up, my friend. I don't know how old yours are. Mine are
9 and 11. 9 and
11. So, mine are 24, 21, and 16, and it gets faster and faster. And I know for myself, I don't look back and wish I could have done it better. I know I could have done it better. And so my last question for you about grit, as much as you've got going on, and I know that these businesses drive your ability to serve your family. Any regrets?
Any regrets? I don't say that there are regrets in my life, because I'm happy with the person that I am today. And that is a result of all of the different decisions that I made, the right ones at the time and the wrong ones at the time, as I look back on it. So there are no regrets. But you just mentioned something, and I always think about one. There was a birthday. My son, my oldest son, was turning 3. And I think this was one of the turning points in my life, and just realizing that I didn't just want to do the multinational forever. And between that and the 2008 crash, because I was there, but I was on my way to a meeting in Frankfurt, Germany, on my son's 3rd birthday. And I was literally I woke up early. My wife was there, my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old was gotten in the bed with my wife. And so there was the 3 of them, and everybody got up early so that I could say and help be there to sing happy birthday. But then I was going on a plane to be in a meeting that, I don't even remember what the meeting was nowadays. Yeah. And so today, I don't remember what that meeting was. And so it's not that I regretted leaving at that moment in time, but it's one of those things that definitely marked and has left a memory for me. And it's something that says, all right, look, there are certain moments that it doesn't matter what's going on. This is the priority. Just because that's me. Maybe from other people, it's, you get on the plane and you do as many planes as you can. But that moment was something that I remember. It's definitely not a regret. It's a memory that has also helped me formulate to be the person that I am today. Maybe a long-winded answer, but it's not regret. It's just a part of the different decisions that I made. And that was definitely one that I decided I will not make again and have not made since.
Yeah, and it's interesting how balance you've achieved a balance in your life that allows you to be there at those times and as you're needed, but you didn't achieve that balance by saying no to things. I think that's the thing that people have to realize, how much more do I have in me, and I can be great at many things, as opposed to saying, I'm tapped out, because we're never tapped out, are we? We've got more in us.
Yeah, I completely believe that. I'm in a book club. I've never done a book club before, and there's a friend of ours. We are reading a book called Halftime. It's a really good friend of mine recommended to me, And it's interesting because I feel like I'm in that point in life where I don't know if are you familiar with the book at all, Brian?
I don't know Halftime. No.
Okay. All right. So it's a guy named Bob Buford. I'll share this really quickly, but he really talks about halftime of your life. And he said, up until a certain point in your life, you're running, you're ambitious, and it talks a lot about what you're trying to do in the corporate world specifically. And then there's a moment where it's what he calls halftime, where you start to really reflect on all the things that you did in the first half of your life. And now you're thinking about, okay, now how do I really want to, I think ultimately what he's saying and what we're talking about in the book club is, how do I want to spend my time for the second half of my life? And he really looks back on, how do you go from really being focused on achieving success to being able to become someone of significance? And that whole process, it's really interesting to look at that and recognize it, because I'm relating to a lot of the things that are being talked about in the book. He talks about, corporate life and this and that. And I also feel like right now I'm in that point where I'm going, okay, well, this is halftime. I feel comfortable with a lot of things we've done so far. And what is the second half going to look like? And then, it's not really being so focused on money and just being successful and all these types of things. It's really about like, what else can I do to help, to make an impact, to be a positive influence on other people. And that's really kind of what's happening. As I don't know why I got on that topic, but it was just one of those things you talked about, and it made me think of the book Halftime that I'm doing in a book club.
Fantastic. And I tell you what, Billy, the greatest thing about doing this show, as fortunate as I am, is I get to have these weekly self-help sessions with these successful people that have figured it out and are figuring it out and overcoming hurdles. And it just feels good to talk to you. And I could do it forever. We're out of time. I know there's people out there that are going, no way. Or, yeah, I want that, or whatever it might be. Whether it's your business acumen that you talk about, your entrepreneurship, your family ideas, or if they just want to talk to you about whatever, how would they reach out to you? How do they find Billy Keels?
Sure. And Brian, I appreciate the opportunity. And I always like to kind of give people different flavors, because everybody's different, right? And for those people that were like, hey, look, I really want to understand more about, just the lifestyle, or I've been thinking about moving overseas, or what's it like in the corporate, or how are you managing all this kind of stuff, reach out. I'm happy to we can get on a call. You can go to bit.ly/speak with Billy. That's BILLY. And that way you can get on a 30-minute call. It's a free call, and we'll talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. I would also say that I'm really happy to talk to people via LinkedIn and connect there on LinkedIn. The only thing I would ask is, when you connect with me on LinkedIn, would you please make reference to the conversation that Brian and I are having here today on A Dash of Grit? Because that would be really, really helpful, just to ring my mind as well, and let me know where we met. You can also, if you want to find out a little bit more about me, you can go to Billy Keels. It's BILLYKEELS.com. That's my website. And if you want to learn a little bit more about long distance investing, which is what I do, living here in Europe and investing specifically back in US based assets, you can go to growyourmoneythesmartway.com. And I think those are the best ways to get in touch with me, Brian. But this has been really, really great. Thanks for asking these questions and getting me to think about so many of these things, man. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing. Before I let you go, I do want to do a quick plug for my employer at Spire Marketing. And what we do here at Spire is that we help organizations, growing companies and businesses overcome hurdles and get through obstacles and get past the ceilings of revenue and marketing loss and systems and all those things that get in the way. That's what Spire Marketing is here to do. If you're looking for a team in that vein, please reach out. We're at spiread.com. You can find me as well on LinkedIn. Brian Leffelock and Dash of Grit. So Billy Keels, a huge pleasure to meet you and to see what you're doing. And it's actually motivating to me to say, no, you don't always have to say no. Find a reason to say yes and dive in, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for being on A Dash of Grit.
Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it.
Folks, we do this once a week. Check out our past episodes and you'll find more people like Mr. Keels here that have overcome challenges and hurdles. Until then, and until the next time, make it a great day. Get gritty.
This is A Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things.